The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never felt so empty. Representatives from 1,000 worlds sat in silence, their various forms of faces showing the same emotion, fear. The holographic display in the center showed what remained of the Altair system. Where once 7 planets had orbited a bright star, now only dark space existed. Ambassador Vextar of the Zilani Empire spoke first. His blue skin had turned pale gray with worry. The void devourers consumed everything in 6 hours. 6 hours. Our strongest fleet couldn't even slow them down. The other ambassadors shifted in their seats. Some had tentacles, others had wings, and a few looked almost human except for their strange colored skin. All of them were afraid. 17 missions have failed, said Council Leader Morden, her forearms gesturing at the display. 17 different species sent their best ships and warriors, all dead, all consumed. The Void Devourers had appeared from beyond their galaxy 6 months ago. They were not like any enemy the Council had ever faced. These machines could think, learn, and grow stronger by eating entire star systems. They turned planets into fuel and used the energy to build more of themselves. We need volunteers for Mission 18, Morden continued. Who will sacrifice their people for the greater good? The hall stayed quiet. Every species had already given their best warriors. What was left? Then a voice spoke from the back of the hall. We will go. All heads turned. A human man walked down the center aisle. He was tall but not huge, with dark hair and serious eyes. His uniform was simple compared to the fancy armor and robes of the other species. Captain Taemin Park, of the Human Federation, he said, stopping in front of the council. My crew and I volunteer for this mission. The hall erupted in confused chatter. Humans? The species that had only left their home system 50 years ago? The ones who still use chemical rockets for some of their ships? Ambassador Vextar laughed. But it was not a happy sound. With respect, Captain Park, your species barely qualifies as spacefaring. You have 1 small colony and a handful of outdated ships. This mission requires people willing to die, Taemin interrupted. That we can do. Council Leader Morden studied the human carefully. Captain, do you understand what you are volunteering for? This is not a battle. You can win. This is a suicide mission to gather information before you are destroyed. Taemin nodded. I understand perfectly. My crew understands too. We talked about it during our trip here. Your crew is here? Morden asked, surprised. They are waiting on our ship, Taemin replied. We came prepared. The truth was, Earth's government had not sent them. When the Galactic Council's call for volunteers reached Earth, the Human Federation's leaders had decided humanity was too young and weak to help. But Taemin and his crew had stolen their ship and come anyway. The ship was called the Defiance, and it was not impressive. It was small, old, and built for cargo runs between Earth and the Mars colonies. But it was theirs, and they had made it ready for war as best they could. Morden looked around the hall. No other species was volunteering. The humans might be weak, but they were willing. Very well, Captain Park. Tell us about your crew, Taemin straightened. Commander Jiwoo Kim handles tactics and weapons. She was a soldier before she became a spacer. Engineer Hyojin Lee knows more about ship systems than anyone I have met. She can fix anything and improve everything. Pilot Dongsu Choi can fly through an asteroid field in a storm. And medic So Young Han is our science officer. She studies alien biology and technology. 5 people, Vextar muttered. 5 humans against an enemy that destroyed our greatest fleets. Sometimes being small is an advantage, Taemin said calmly. Small ships are harder to hit. Small crews can move faster and make decisions quicker. Morden activated the holographic display again. Your mission is simple, Captain. Enter the Kepler system, where the Void Devourers are currently feeding. Get as close as you can to their main force. Record everything you see, transmit the data back to us. Try to survive as long as possible. The display showed a star system under attack. Massive dark shapes moved between the planets like hungry sharks. These were the Void Devourers machines, the size of cities that could think and plan like living creatures. Previous missions lasted an average of 2 hours after contact, Morden continued. The longest was 4 hours and 12 minutes. Do not expect to return home. Taemin studied the display carefully. The other missions had all done the same thing. They had built huge warships with the strongest weapons and shields they could make. Then they had flown straight at the enemy and tried to fight. What weapons did the previous missions carry? He asked. Plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, graviton beams, Vextar listed. The most advanced weapons in the galaxy. And they all failed the same way? The Void Devourers adapted to each weapon after the first few hits. Then they overwhelmed our ships with superior numbers and firepower. Taemin nodded thoughtfully. This was useful information. When do we leave? Your ship is being supplied with our best sensors and communication equipment, Morden said. You leave in 6 hours. As Taemin walked back up the aisle, he could hear the other ambassadors talking in low voices. Some felt sorry for the doomed humans. Others thought it was good that such a primitive species would die for the greater good instead of more advanced peoples. Tae-Min did not care what they thought. He had work to do. Back on the Defiance, his crew was waiting in their small meeting room. The ship was cramped compared to the luxury vessels of other species, but it felt like home. How did it go? Asked Viwu. She was shorter than Taemin, but had the tough look of someone who had been in many fights. They said yes, Taemin replied, sitting down. We leave in 6 hours. And they expect us to die? Said Hyojin. She was young but brilliant, with oil stains on her hands from working on the ship's engines. Yes, they do, Dongsu grinned. He was the youngest of them all, barely 25, but he could pilot anything that flew. Good, that means they will. Not be watching us too closely? So Young looked up from her computer tablet. She was studying the data from previous missions. I have been reading about the enemy. The Void Devourers are not just machines. They learn and adapt, but there might be a weakness. What kind of weakness? Taemin asked. They adapt to direct attacks very quickly, but what if we do not attack directly? What if we make them adapt to something that helps us instead of hurts? US? Guru frowned. I do not understand. Think of it like teaching someone to catch balls, So Young explained. If you always throw the ball the same way, they learn to catch it easily. But what if you keep changing how you throw? What if you make them practice catching when you are really teaching them to miss? Taemin smiled. This was why he had chosen his crew carefully. They did not think like military officers from other species. They thought like humans, tricky, creative, and willing to try anything. 6 hours to prepare, he said. Hyojin, what? Modifications can you make to our ship? Give me the supply list from the council, and I will surprise you, she replied. As his crew got to work. Taemin looked out the small window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Void Devourers were consuming entire worlds. Everyone expected him and his crew to die trying to stop them. Maybe they would die. But maybe, just maybe, they could do something that no one expected. After all, humans had always been good at surviving impossible situations. 6 hours was not much time to prepare for a suicide mission, but the crew of the Defiance worked like their lives depended on it. Which they did. HYO-Jin had torn apart half the ship's interior, and was rebuilding it with equipment from the Galactic Council's supply depot. She hummed while she worked, which meant she was having fun. This worried the others. What exactly are you doing to our ship? Taemin asked, watching her weld strange devices to the hull. Making it better, she replied, not looking up from her work. The council gave us their best sensors, right? But they think like soldiers. They put sensors on the outside where they can see everything clearly. That makes sense, said Dongsu, who was helping her carry parts. For normal ships, yes. But we are not a normal ship. We are small and sneaky. So I am putting sensors inside the hull, behind our cargo containers, even inside the waste recycling system. Jawu raised an eyebrow. Inside the toilet? The enemy will not look for sensors in our toilet, Hyojin said with a grin. And I am connecting everything through our navigation computer. If they scan us, they will see a simple cargo ship with basic sensors. They will not see the advanced equipment hidden everywhere. While Hyojin rebuilt their ship, So Young studied everything the Galactic Council knew about the Void Devourers. The information was not encouraging. They are part machine, part something else, she told the others during their last meal before departure. The machines adapt by learning from each attack. They copy weapons that work against them and use them for themselves. What is the something else part? Taemin asked. Nobody knows. Previous missions never got close enough to find out. But I have a theory. She pulled up a hologram showing the structure of a Void Devourer. It looked like a giant mechanical spider with too many legs. See these sections here? She pointed to areas that glowed differently. They are not made of metal. They look organic. Living tissue? So they are cyborgs? Iwu asked. Maybe, or maybe they are something that was alive once and got turned into machines. Either way, organic parts can get sick, they can be poisoned. They can die. But we would need to get very close to use biological weapons, Dongsu pointed out. Yes, So Young agreed. Very close. Taemin looked around at his crew. They were young, inexperienced, and completely outmatched. But they were also human, which meant they were too stubborn to give up. Any other ideas? He asked. I have been thinking about their behavior, Jiwoo said. They always attack in groups. They coordinate perfectly. But what if we could break that coordination? How? Electronic warfare. Jamming, viruses, the same things we use against human computer systems, but adapted for alien technology. Hyojin looked up from her work. I can build jammers from our mining equipment. Not military grade, but maybe good enough. And I can create computer viruses, So Young added. I will need samples of their technology, but if I can get some. First, we have to survive long enough to get samples, Taemin reminded them. Dongsu finished his meal and stood up. Leave that to me. I have been studying the flight patterns of the previous missions. They all did the same thing, flew straight at the enemy at maximum speed. That is the fastest way to get into combat, Jiwoo said. It is also the most predictable way. The Void Devourers could see them coming from light years away and prepare perfect ambush. So what do you suggest? Dongsu smiled. We do what I used to do in the asteroid belt. We take the long way around. The Kepler system was 8 days away at maximum speed, but Dongsu's plan would take 3 weeks. Instead of flying directly, they would approach from the outer edge of the system, using the gravity of dead planets and asteroid fields to hide their approach. It will be boring, he warned them. Lots of waiting. Lots of careful flying. But we might actually get close enough to see what we are fighting. With 2 hours left before departure, Taemin walked through his modified ship. It barely looked like the same vessel they had arrived in. Hyojin had installed so many hidden systems that he could not tell what was original equipment and what was her improvements. Will it all work? He asked her. Probably, she said, which was not as reassuring as he had hoped. What if it does not? Then we die. But we were going to die anyway, so what is the difference? This was human logic at its finest, Taemin thought. When facing impossible odds changed the game, the departure ceremony was small. Only Council Leader Morden and a few other officials came to see them off. Most of the ambassadors were busy planning evacuation routes for their home worlds. Captain Park, Morden said as they shook hands in the human fashion, I want you to know that your sacrifice will be remembered. We are not planning to be a sacrifice, Taemin replied. We are planning to be a problem. A problem? Humans are very good at being problems. As the Defiance left the council station, Taemin took one last look at the massive structure. It housed representatives from the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Their technology was centuries ahead of Earth's. Their knowledge was vast. Their resources were nearly unlimited, and they were all terrified of an enemy that his small crew was about to face alone. Course set for the Kepler system, Dongsu reported from the pilot's seat. Long route, as planned, estimated arrival in 22 days. Good, that gives us time to practice. For the next 3 weeks, the crew worked constantly. Hyojin fine-tuned her hidden systems and built weapons from spare parts. So Young studied biological warfare and computer programming. Jiwoo developed new tactics based on guerrilla fighting instead of fleet battles. Dongsu practiced precision flying until he could thread the ship through gaps barely wider than their hull. And Taemin watched his crew transform from cargo haulers into something new. They were not soldiers like the previous missions. They were not explorers seeking glory. They were humans doing what humans did best, adapting to survive. Approaching the outer edge of the Kepler system, Dongsu announced on day 22. Beginning stealth approach. The ship went dark except for essential systems. They would coast in using gravity and momentum, making as little noise as possible. First sensor readings coming in, So Young reported quietly. The main screen showed the Kepler system as it now existed. Where once there had been 8 planets, now there were only 3. The others had been consumed, leaving nothing but empty space and debris. "Look at that!" Zhuwu whispered Dot in the center of the system. Massive shapes moved through space. The void devourers were even larger than the reports had suggested. Each one was the size of a small moon, covered in metal spines and glowing sections that pulsed like a heartbeat. "How many do you count?" Taemin asked. 47 main units, So Young replied, plus thousands of smaller ones. They are beautiful in a terrible way. She was right. The void devourers moved with perfect coordination like a school of fish or a flock of birds. Their dance around the remaining planets was hypnotic. "They are feeding on the 4th planet," Hyojin observed. "Converting matter into energy, then using that energy to build more of themselves." "How long until they finish?" Taemin asked. "At current rate, 6 days, then they will move to the next planet." 6 days to figure out how to fight an enemy that had destroyed the greatest fleets in the galaxy. 6 days to find a weakness that no one else had discovered. "Well," Dongsu said cheerfully, "at least we made it farther than anyone expected." Taemin smiled. His crew was right. They had already succeeded in one way. They were still alive. When everyone expected them to be dead, now they had to figure out how to stay that way. The Defiance drifted through the outer asteroid belt of the Kepler system like a ghost. For 3 days they had watched the void devourers feed on the 4th planet. The massive machines worked with perfect efficiency, breaking down rock and metal into energy streams that flowed back to their main bodies. "They are definitely not just machines," So Young said, studying the sensor readings. "Look at these biological signatures. There are living organisms inside those mechanical shells." "What kind of organisms?" Taemin asked. "I cannot tell from this distance, but they are complex, maybe even intelligent." "You mean there might be people trapped inside those things?" Wu sounded horrified. Maybe the organisms are the original void devourers, and the machines are just tools they built around themselves." Hyojin looked up from her engineering station. "Either way, if there are biological parts, they need to eat, breathe, or process waste somehow. That means vulnerabilities." Their quiet observation was interrupted by an alarm. Dongsu's hands flew over his controls. "Contact. 3 small void devourers, coming this way fast." "How small?" Taemin asked. "Only about the size of our ship. They must be scouts." On the main screen, 3 sleek shapes moved toward them through the asteroid field. They looked like mechanical sharks with too many fins and glowing red eyes. "Do they see us?" Zhuwu asked. "Not yet, but they will in about 10 minutes if we stay here." Taemin looked at his options. They could run, but the scouts were faster. They could hide, but there was nowhere to go. Or they could fight, but that would alert the main force. "Dongsu, can you get us deeper into the asteroid field?" "Yes, but it will be dangerous. These asteroids are unstable. One wrong move and we could cause a collision cascade." "Do it!" The pilot grinned and pushed the ship deeper into the dense field of tumbling rocks. The Defiance twisted and turned between asteroids the size of mountains, its hull scraping against smaller debris. "Scouts are following us," So Young reported. "They are gaining." "Hyojin, are your hidden weapons ready?" "The mining lasers are powered up and disguised as waste heat vents." The improvised missiles are loaded in the cargo bay. But Captain, these are not military weapons. They might not even scratch those things. We are not trying to destroy them. We are trying to learn from them. The first scout caught up with them just as Dong-Su threaded the ship through a gap between two massive asteroids. The alien machine was beautiful and terrifying, its hull covered in patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. "It is scanning us," So Young said. "Reading our ship's systems?" "Let it," Taemin ordered. "Hyojin, prepare to give it something interesting to scan." "What do you mean?" "Fire one mining laser." "Not at the scout, at that asteroid behind it." Hyojin looked confused but obeyed. The industrial laser, designed for cutting through rock, struck the asteroid and caused a controlled explosion. Debris scattered in all directions. The scout immediately reacted, its hull patterns changing as it analyzed the explosion. Then it fired its own weapon, a beam of energy that cut through the debris with surgical precision. "It is copying our laser," Jiwoo observed. "Just like the report said. It learns from each attack." "Exactly." "So Young, are you recording everything?" "Yes, Captain." Full sensor sweep of its hull, weapons, and behavioral patterns. The second scout arrived and also began scanning them. Both alien machines circled the Defiance like predators studying prey. "They are talking to each other," So Young said, watching. "Her instruments, some kind of quantum communication. The signals are encrypted, but I am recording everything." "Good. Dong-Su, can you lead them on a chase through this asteroid field?" "For how long?" "As long as possible without getting us killed." "What?" Followed was the strangest game of tag in galactic history. Dong-Su flew the ship through impossible spaces between asteroids, using every trick he had learned in the mining fields of the Sol system. The scouts followed, learning and adapting to each maneuver, but the humans were learning too. Each time a scout fired its weapons, Hyojin's hidden sensors recorded the energy patterns. Each time they communicated, So Young captured more of their language. Each time they moved, Jiwoo studied their tactics. "Third scout is catching up," Dong-Su warned. "And I think they are getting suspicious. They keep trying to herd us toward open space." "How much data do we have?" Taemin asked. "Enough for now," So Young replied. "I need time to analyze what we have collected. Then it is time to disappear." Dong-Su had been waiting for this moment. He aimed the ship at the largest asteroid in the field, a tumbling mountain of ice and rock nearly a kilometer wide. As they approached, he fired the ship's waste thrusters at full power, not for propulsion but to create a cloud of superheated gas. "What are you doing?" Jiwoo asked. "Something I learned mining ice asteroids. Watch." The gas cloud hit the asteroid's icy surface and caused a massive sublimation event. Ice turned instantly to vapor, creating a fog bank that covered several cubic kilometers of space. The Defiance disappeared into the cloud like a submarine diving into deep water. The scouts circled the area, probing with sensors, but the combination of water vapor and electromagnetic interference made detection impossible. "How long will this last?" Taemin asked. "Maybe an hour. The vapor will disperse and they will find us. Then we have an hour to learn everything we can." So Young worked frantically, analyzing the recorded data. The scout ships were more complex than anyone had imagined. They were not just machines, but symbiotic combinations of technology and biology. "The organic parts are definitely intelligent," she reported. "But they are not prisoners, they are partners. The biological organisms provide creativity and intuition, while the machines provide processing power and physical capabilities, so they really can think and learn," Jiwoo said. "Yes, but there is a limitation. They share information through their quantum communication network. When one learns something, they all learn it. But the network has protocols and restrictions." "What kind of restrictions?" "Think of it like a computer network with security software. Information has to be verified and approved before it spreads to the whole system. If I could introduce false information or contradictory data, you could confuse the network," Hyojin finished, "make them learn the wrong lessons." "Exactly. But I would need to get much closer to their main communication hub." "Where is that?" The largest void devourer in the center of their formation. It is the size of a small moon. Taemin looked at his crew. They had survived their first encounter with the enemy and learned valuable information. But So-young's plan would require them to get close to the most dangerous target in the system. The vapor cloud is starting to disperse, Dong-su reported. Decision time. Through the thinning mist, they could see the 3 scouts still searching for them. Beyond them, the main force of void devourers continued their methodical consumption of the planet. Set course for the inner system, Taemin ordered. But keep us hidden in the debris fields. Captain, Jiwoo said quietly, if we get that close to their main force, we will not be able to run away. I know. This really is becoming a suicide mission. Taemin looked at the massive alien machines on their screen. Somewhere in those mechanical shells were living beings that had traveled from beyond their galaxy to consume entire worlds. They were more advanced, more powerful, and more numerous than humanity could ever hope to match. But they had one weakness that might be enough. Maybe, he said. But if we are going to die, let us make sure we take some of them with us. As the Defiance began its careful approach to the inner system, none of them knew they were about to change the course of galactic history. They were just 5 humans doing what humans do best, refusing to give up when anyone sensible would surrender. The vapor cloud finally dispersed completely, revealing empty space. The 3 scouts searched for several more hours before giving up and returning to the main force. They never reported that they had found anything interesting. After all, what could one small cargo ship do against the might of the void devourers? They were about to find out. 2 months had passed since the Defiance was supposed to die. The Galactic Council had stopped waiting for final transmissions and started receiving regular intelligence reports. Every few days, Captain Taemin Park sent new data about Void Devourer. Behavior, technology, and weaknesses. It was impossible, but it was happening. They are still alive, Council Leader Morden said, staring at the latest report. Not only alive, but actively hunting the enemy. The report included sensor readings from the successful attack on a Void Devourer manufacturing facility. The humans had not only survived the assault but had captured samples of enemy technology inside the Kepler system. The Defiance had become something unrecognizable. Hyojin's constant modifications had turned their small cargo ship into a hybrid of human engineering and captured alien technology. It looked like it had been built by madmen, which was not far from the truth. Status report, Taemin said as he entered what used to be their cargo bay. It was now their war room, filled with jury-rigged computers and alien artifacts. The biological weapon is ready, So-young announced from her makeshift laboratory. I have isolated the specific bacteria that the organic components of the void devourers need to survive. Without it, they will die within hours. And the computer virus? Also ready. It will make their learning network think that everything they encounter is a new type of weapon. They will waste time and resources trying to adapt to ordinary asteroids and space debris. Ji-woo looked up from her tactical display. I have identified 17 manufacturing hubs in this system. If we can hit them all with coordinated strikes, we can stop them from building new units. That is a lot of targets for one ship, Dong-su pointed out. We are not one ship anymore. Hyojin said with pride. She activated a holographic display showing their current configuration. The Defiance now had 3 detachable sections, each capable of independent flight. More importantly, each section was equipped with self-replicating repair systems built from captured Void Devourer technology. We can literally rebuild ourselves from scrap metal, she explained. As long as one section survives, we can regenerate. The entire ship. It was insane. It was dangerous. It violated at least a dozen safety protocols. It was also brilliant. How do we coordinate attacks across 17 targets? Taemin asked. We do not, Jiwoo replied. We let them coordinate for us, she explained her plan. Instead of attacking the manufacturing hubs directly, they would plant So-young's viruses in the Void Devourer communication network. The viruses would spread through the system, causing each hub to misidentify the others as enemies. They will attack each other, Taemin asked. Better than that. They will try to adapt to each other's weapons and defenses. But since they are all using the same systems, the adaptations will just make them more confused. So Young nodded enthusiastically. Like two mirrors facing each other, creating an infinite loop. They will be so busy adapting to themselves that they will not notice us planting the biological weapons. It was the kind of plan that could only work once. If it failed, the Void Devourers would adapt and never fall for a similar trick again. But if it succeeded, we could cripple their entire operation in this system, Taemin realized. More than that, Dong-su said. We could send the data to the Galactic Council. Other human ships could use the same tactics in other systems. Other human ships. That was the part of the plan that worried Taemin the most. When they had volunteered for this mission, it was supposed to be a one-way trip. But their success had inspired other human crews to volunteer for similar missions. Earth's government was no longer trying to stop them. Word of the Defiance's survival had spread throughout human space, and volunteers were lining up for impossible assignments. Message from Earth Command, So Young announced, checking their communication array. 3 more human ships have reached their target systems. The Resilience, the Tenacity, and the Audacity. Let me guess, Zhiwu said dryly. All cargo ships with modified engines and crazy crews. All volunteers, Taemin corrected. All humans doing what they do best. The attack began at dawn, ship's time. The 3 sections of the Defiance separated and approached different parts of the Void Devourer formation. To outside observers, it looked like a suicide charge by 3 small ships. Against overwhelming odds, it was actually something much more sophisticated. Dong-su piloted the main section through the outer perimeter, drawing attention from the scout patrols. His job was to be seen, to be chased, and to lead the enemy away from the real targets. Hyojin took the engineering section, deep into the asteroid field surrounding the largest manufacturing hub. Her section was equipped with the most advanced stealth systems they had built, making it nearly invisible to sensors. Tae-min commanded the tactical section, which carried both the biological weapons and the computer viruses. His route took him through the debris of the planet the Void Devourers had already consumed. Phase 1 complete, Dong-su reported. I have the attention of about 30 scout units. They are chasing me toward the outer system. Phase 2 initiating? Hyojin said. Beginning infiltration of Manufacturing Hub 7. Taemin watched his screen as Hyojin's section approached the massive alien facility. The hub was like a mechanical city in space, with thousands of smaller units swarming around. It like insects around a hive. I am inside their perimeter, Hyojin whispered. They think I am a piece of debris, beginning virus deployment. So Young's computer virus was hidden inside what appeared to be a distress beacon from a destroyed alien ship. When the Void Devourers scanned it, they would automatically download the virus into their network. Virus deployed. Moving to Hub 12. One by one, Hyojin planted viruses at each manufacturing facility. The Void Devourers scanned each fake distress beacon and unknowingly infected their own network. All viruses deployed, she reported after 2 hours of careful work. Beginning withdrawal. Virus activation in 3.2. The effect was immediate and spectacular. Across the system, manufacturing hubs began changing their behavior. Instead of working together, they started treating each other as unknown contacts. Warning signals spread through their network, then they began shooting at each other. It is working. Jiwoo laughed as she watched the tactical display. Hub 7 just fired on Hub 12. Now Hub 12 is firing back? Perfect confusion, So Young added. Their adaptation protocols are trying to counter weapons that do not exist and defend against attacks that are not happening. While the Void Devourers were distracted by their artificial civil war, Taemin moved his section toward the central command structure. This was the most dangerous part of the mission, getting close enough to the main hive mind to plant the biological weapon. The command structure was a massive sphere covered in communication arrays and sensor clusters. It pulsed with energy like a mechanical heart, coordinating the activities of thousands of smaller units. Beginning final approach, Temin reported. So Young, is the biological weapon ready? Ready. Remember, you need to get it into their ventilation system. The bacteria will spread through their organic components within minutes. Understood. The final approach was the longest 10 minutes of Temin's life. His section crept through the shadows of destroyed planets using every piece of cover available. The massive command sphere grew larger and larger on his screen. Contact, Zhu suddenly announced. 3 heavy interceptors closing fast. They found us, Temin said grimly. Hyojin, Dongsu, rendezvous at extraction point Alpha. We may need to leave quickly. Negative, Captain, Dongsu replied. I'm still being chased by half their scout fleet. Cannot break away. Same here, Hyojin added. I am trapped in the debris field. Temin looked at the approaching interceptors. Each one was 3 times the size of his section and armed with weapons that could vaporize his ship in seconds, but he was less than a kilometer from the command sphere. So close to completing the mission. I am going in alone, he decided. If this works, it will not matter if they destroy me afterward. Captain, Uru started to protest. That is an order. Prepare for emergency acceleration. Temin pushed his engines to maximum power and raced toward the command sphere. The interceptors followed, firing energy beams that lit up space around him. 2 kilometers, 1 kilometer, 500 meters, A beam clipped his port engine, sending the section spinning. Temin fought to regain control as warning lights flashed throughout his tiny ship. 100 meters. 50 meters. Contact. He fired the biological weapon directly into what looked like an intake vent on the sphere's surface. The specially designed projectile penetrated the alien hull and released its deadly cargo into the atmosphere inside. Weapon deployed. All sections. Emergency extraction. But as Temin turned to flee, something incredible happened. The massive command sphere began to change color, its pulsing energy patterns becoming erratic. Then it stopped moving entirely. So Young, he called, what is happening? The biological weapon worked faster than expected. The organic components are dying, and without them, the mechanical parts cannot function properly. Across the system, manufacturing hubs began shutting down as the command network collapsed. The Void Devourers were not just confused anymore, they were dying. All sections, rendezvous at the extraction point. The news spread through the Galactic Council like wildfire. The impossible had happened. Not only had humans survived their suicide mission, they had actually won a major victory against the Void Devourers. Ambassador Vextar stood before the emergency session of the Council, his blue skin pale with shock. The entire Kepler system has been liberated. 47 major Void Devourer units destroyed or disabled. All manufacturing facilities offline. How? Council Leader Morden asked. Our greatest fleets could not achieve what 5 humans accomplished in a cargo ship. According to their reports, they used biological warfare combined with computer viruses to turn the enemy against itself. The Void Devourers literally destroyed themselves while the humans watched. The hall erupted in excited chatter. Representatives from 1,000 worlds had the same thought. If humans could do this, what did that mean for their own species? Are there more human ships available? Asked Ambassador Tarani of the Centauri Republic. That is the remarkable part, Vextar replied. Earth has already sent 12 more ships to different systems. All volunteers, all using similar modified cargo vessels. 12 ships against the entire Void Devourer invasion force? It appears that humans do not think in terms of reasonable odds. Back in the Kepler system, the crew of the Defiance was discovering that success brought its own problems. Their ship was famous throughout the galaxy and everyone wanted to know their secrets. Another request for tactical data, So Young announced, reading through their daily communications. This one from the Andromedan Defense Fleet. They want to know how we built our biological weapons. Tell them the same thing we told the others, Temin replied. We will share everything, but they have to understand that our methods only work once against the same enemy. It was true. The Void Devourers were learning from their defeat in the Kepler system. Intelligence reports from other systems showed that they were adapting their defenses against biological weapons and computer viruses. That is why we need more ships, Juwu said, studying the tactical reports from other human missions. The Resilience hit 3 manufacturing hubs in the Vega system before the enemy adapted. The Tenacity disabled an entire command network in Proxima Centauri. But each victory teaches the Void Devourers how to defend against our methods. So we need new methods, Hyojin said from her engineering station. She was working on their latest modification, a way to disguise their ship as a Void Devourer unit. Good thing humans are creative. The truth was that humanity's success was creating a revolution in galactic warfare. For centuries, different species had fought using similar strategies: build the biggest ships, mount the strongest weapons, and overwhelm the enemy with superior firepower. Humans fought differently. They used deception, improvisation, and tactics. That seemed insane until they worked. More importantly, they shared their innovations freely with any species willing to learn. Message from the Audacity, Dongsu reported. Captain Byung-ho Yoon says they have successfully infiltrated a Void Devourer supply convoy. They are sending us their data on enemy logistics. Captain Byung-ho was one of the new generation of human commanders. Unlike Taemin's crew, who had started as cargo haulers, Byung-ho had been a military officer before volunteering for his impossible mission. What did he learn? Taemin asked. So Young pulled up the data transmission. The Void Devourers have supply lines just like any other military force. They need raw materials for manufacturing, energy for their biological components, and communication relays to coordinate their activities. Supply lines can be attacked, Wu observed. Exactly what Captain Byung-ho is thinking. He wants to coordinate strikes against their logistics network. It was an ambitious plan. Instead of fighting individual battles in scattered systems, the human ships would work together to cripple the Void Devourers' ability to supply and reinforce their forces. How many ships do we have now? Taemin asked. 37 confirmed, Dongsu replied. More launching from Earth every week. The government has stopped trying to prevent volunteers and started providing official support. 37 ships? Against an invasion force that numbered in the millions. It should have been laughable. Instead, it was terrifying the enemy. Incoming priority transmission, So Young announced. It is from Commander Yoonji Park. Taemin smiled. Yoonji was his younger sister, and her ship, the Defiant, had just completed a stealth mission to infiltrate a Void Devourer command center. Big brother, Yoonji's voice filled their small bridge. I have news you need to hear. I managed to tap into their high-level communications, and they are talking about us, about humans in general, or us specifically. Both. They call our species the Chaos Makers. They have identified human ships as a priority threat and are developing specific countermeasures. What kind of countermeasures? Hunter-killer units designed specifically to track down small, stealthy ships. They are fast, smart, and equipped with sensors that can see through most of our hiding tricks. Taemin looked at his crew. They had known this moment would come. The Void Devourers were adapting to human tactics, just as they had adapted to warfare. How long before these hunter-killers are deployed? He asked. According to their communications, the first units will be ready in 2 weeks. They are planning to use them to eliminate all human ships before we can do more damage. Then we have 2 weeks to do as much damage as possible, Wu said grimly. Or, Hyojin said with a dangerous grin, we have 2 weeks to figure out how to turn their hunter-killers against them. What do you mean? Think about it. They are building special units just to hunt us. That means these units will be programmed with detailed information about human tactics and technology. If we could capture one, we could learn everything. They know about us, So Young finished, and use that information to stay ahead of their adaptations. It is risky, Taemin warned. These hunter-killers will be designed specifically to kill ships like ours. Everything we do is risky, Dongsu pointed out. That is what makes it fun? The plan that emerged over the next few hours was typically human in its audacity. Instead of avoiding the hunter-killers, they would deliberately attract them and attempt to capture one alive. I will send the plan to all human ships, Taemin decided. Let them know what we are attempting. If it works, they can use the same tactics. If it fails, they will learn from our mistakes, Wu said. That is how humans fight. Every failure teaches the next crew how to succeed. As word of the plan spread through the human fleet, volunteers began arriving at the Kepler system. The Persistence, commanded by Captain Minho Lee, the Unstoppable, under Captain Dalsu Kim, the Inevitable, led by Captain Yoon Seo Jang. Each ship was different, modified according to its crew's specialties and imagination. Some focused on stealth and infiltration. Others specialized in electronic warfare or biological weapons. A few had become pure hunter-killers themselves, designed to stalk and destroy enemy units, but all of them shared the same human characteristics: creativity, determination, and an absolute refusal to accept defeat. Fleet assembled, Dongsu reported as the last ships arrived. 15 vessels total, all ready for Operation Hunter-Killer. Taemin looked at the tactical display showing their small fleet. 15 ships against the might of an intergalactic invasion force. By any reasonable standard, they were doomed. All ships, this is Captain Park, he broadcast to the fleet. In a few hours, we are going to attempt something that the enemy thinks is impossible. We are going to hunt the hunters. On 15 different ships, human crews prepared for battle in their own unique ways. Some said prayers, others told jokes. A few sang songs or shared memories of home. All of them checked their weapons and made sure their ships were ready for the impossible, because that was what humans did. When faced with certain defeat, they changed the rules of the game. The Void Devourers were about to learn that lesson the hard way. All ships report ready, Wu announced. Then let us go hunting, Taemin said, the 15 ships of the human fleet moved out into the darkness, ready to face an enemy designed specifically to destroy them. Behind them, the liberated Kepler system stood as proof that humans could accomplish the impossible. Ahead of them lay the unknown, and the chance to do it again. It was exactly where they wanted to be. The hunter-killers arrived in the Kepler system exactly when Void Devourer intelligence predicted they would. 3 sleek, deadly ships emerged from hyperspace and immediately began scanning for human vessels. They found none. Scanning complete, the lead hunter-killer transmitted to its companions. No human ships detected in system. Impossible, replied the second unit. Intelligence confirms 15 human vessels were gathered here. Perhaps they fled when they learned of our deployment. Humans do not flee, they adapt. The third hunter-killer, designated as the analyst unit, processed thousands of possibilities in seconds. Recommendation: assume humans are present but hidden. Begin active scanning protocols. What the hunter-killers did not know was that they were absolutely correct. All 15 human ships were in the system, but they were not hiding in space. They were hiding inside the Void Devourers themselves. This is incredibly uncomfortable, Dongsu whispered from his position wedged into what used to be a cargo bay. The Defiance had been completely disassembled and rebuilt inside the hull of a disabled Void Devourer manufacturing unit. Quiet, Hyojin hissed back. Sound travels through these alien hulls differently than through our ships. They might hear us. For 2 weeks, human engineering teams had worked around the clock to perfect their latest impossibility converting captured Void Devourer units into disguised human ships. From the outside, they looked exactly like enemy vessels. Inside, they were cramped, uncomfortable, and barely functional. They were also completely invisible to hunter-killer sensors. Contact, So Young whispered, monitoring the hunter-killer. Transmissions. They are beginning deep scans of all remaining Void Devourer units in the system. How deep? Taemin asked. Very. They are not taking any chances. The plan had been Captain Byung-ho's idea. Instead of trying to fight the hunter-killers directly, they would let the enemy ships reveal their capabilities while the humans gathered intelligence from inside captured Void Devourer hulls. Hunter-Killer 1 is approaching our position. Jiwoo reported quietly. Distance, 5 kilometers and closing. Through their stolen alien sensors, they watched the sleek predator approach. The hunter-killer was beautiful in the way that perfect weapons often are, all flowing curves and deadly efficiency. It is scanning us, So Young said. Biological. Sensors, quantum resonance detectors, thermal imaging. These things are very thorough. Are we hidden well enough? We are about to find out. The hunter-killer moved to within 1 kilometer of their disguised position. Its sensors probed every centimeter of the captured Void Devourer hull, looking for any sign of human technology. They found nothing. Hyojin's modifications were too subtle and too well integrated with the alien systems. To the hunter-killer's sensors, they looked like just another damaged Void Devourer unit. Moving on to the next target, the hunter-killer transmitted. Temin allowed himself to breathe again. Phase 1 complete. All ships report status. 1. By 1, the other disguised human vessels reported in. The Persistence was hidden inside a command module. The Unstoppable had taken over a weapons platform. The Inevitable was disguised as a manufacturing unit. All had passed the hunter-killer scans without detection. Phase 2 initiating. Captain Byung-ho's voice came through their communications. Beginning hunter-killer analysis. The second phase of the plan was even more dangerous than the first. While hidden inside their captured hulls, the human crews would use their combined sensor arrays to study every aspect of the hunter-killer design and capabilities, recording all transmissions. So Young reported. These units use a completely different communication protocol than regular Void Devourers. More secure, more complex. Getting detailed scans of their hull configuration, Hyojin added. The armor is adaptive. It changes density and composition based on expected threats. Weapons analysis in progress, the Wu said. They have some kind of reality distortion cannon. It does not just destroy targets, it makes them never have existed in the first place. That is disturbing, Dong-su muttered for 6 hours. The 15 human crews studied their hunters while pretending to be debris. They recorded everything, movement patterns, communication frequencies, weapons capabilities, and most importantly, behavioral limitations. I think I have found their weakness, So Young announced after analyzing hours of data. They are programmed to hunt human ships, but their target recognition is very specific. They are looking for human technology signatures. What does that mean? Taemin asked. It means they might not recognize human technology that has been completely integrated with alien systems, like what we have done to our ships. So if we stay disguised, they cannot hunt us? Better than that. If we can modify our technology signatures to look like something other than human, they might ignore us completely. Captain Minho's voice came through the communications from his position inside a captured sensor array. I have an idea. What if we make ourselves look like a completely different species? Explain. The hunter-killers have detailed profiles of human technology, but they also have profiles of every other species in the galaxy. If we could modify our signatures to match, say, Andromedan technology, they would classify us as Andromedan. Ships and ignore us, Hyojin finished. That is brilliant. It is also very difficult, So Young warned. We would need perfect copies of Andromedan technology signatures. I might be able to help with that, came a new voice on the communications channel. Everyone froze. The voice was not human. This is Commander Zethkari of the Andromedan scout ship Whisper. We have been monitoring your communications. How? Taemin demanded. This channel is encrypted. Human encryption is adequate but not perfect. We cracked it several hours ago. Taemin looked at his crew. They had been discovered by an alien ship, but the alien did not sound hostile. What do you want? He asked carefully. To help. The Andromedan Republic has been following your progress with great interest. Your tactics have inspired our own military to develop new strategies. You want to learn from us? We want to fight beside you. The hunter-killers are not just hunting human ships. They are hunting any vessel that uses unconventional tactics. We are also targets, This was unexpected. For the first time since the war began, an alien species was offering to fight alongside humans as equals rather than treating them as expendable primitives. "What are you proposing?" Tayman asked. "A joint operation. We provide you with authentic Andromedan technology signatures. You provide us with your stealth and infiltration techniques. Together, we capture a hunter-killer for detailed study." That sounds incredibly dangerous. Of course it does. That is why we know it will work. Tayman smiled. The Andromedans were learning to think like humans. "All human ships, this is Captain Park. We have a new ally and a modified plan. Prepare for Phase 3. Phase 3 was even more insane than the previous phases. Instead of simply studying the hunter-killers, they were going to capture one, alive while disguised as Andromedan vessels. Technology transfer complete," Commander Zethkari reported. "All human ships now register as Andromedan scouts on our sensors." "Confirmed," So Young said. "We look exactly like small Andromedan patrol vessels. Then let us go hunting." Captain Byung-ho said. The modified human fleet emerged from their hiding places inside the captured Void Devourer hulls. To anyone watching, it looked like a patrol group of Andromedan scouts investigating the battlefield. The hunter-killers detected them immediately. "Unknown vessels, identify yourselves," the lead hunter-killer transmitted. "Andromedan Patrol Group 7, Commander Zethkari replied smoothly. "Investigating reports of human activity in this system." "No. Human activity detected. You may proceed with your investigation," acknowledged. The hunter-killers returned to their search pattern, completely ignoring the disguised human ships. Their programming told them that Andromedans were allies, not targets. "Target selected," Zhiwu announced quietly. "The analytical unit has separated from the other two. It is conducting detailed scans of the outer asteroid field." "Perfect," Tayman said. "All ships begin encirclement. Remember, we need it alive." What followed was the most complex capture operation in galactic history. 15 disguised human ships and one genuine Andromedan vessel worked together to surround a hunter-killer without alerting it to their true purpose. "Capture nets deployed," reported Captain Dalsu from the Unstoppable. "Electronic warfare systems active," added Captain Unesio from the Inevitable. "Beginning sedation protocol," So Young announced as she released a cloud of specially designed nanobots that would interfere with the hunter-killer's biological components. The hunter-killer realized something was wrong just as the trap closed around it. Its reality distortion cannon charged to fire, but the electronic warfare systems disrupted its targeting systems. "Got it!" Hyojin shouted as the capture nets successfully ensnared the alien vessel. For the first time in the war, humans had captured a Void Devourer unit completely intact. "All ships withdraw to secure location," Tayman ordered. "We have work to do." As the combined human Andromedan fleet retreated with their prize, the other two hunter-killers continued their search for human vessels that were no longer in the system. They would search for weeks before finally giving up and reporting that all human ships had somehow vanished without a trace. The captured hunter-killer hung in the modified cargo bay of the Defiance like a sleeping predator. For 3 days, the combined human Andromedan research team had been carefully studying its systems, learning secrets that could change the entire war. "The organic components are more advanced than anything we have seen," So Young reported, her hands moving carefully over the alien bioneural. "These are not just symbiotic organisms, they are engineered specifically for hunting and killing." "What kind of engineering?" asked Dr. Veltar, the Andromedan xenobiologist who had joined their research team. "Genetic modification on a scale we cannot match. They have enhanced senses, accelerated reflexes, and cognitive patterns optimized for tactical analysis." Commander Zethkari floated nearby in his environmental suit, his tentacles moving in patterns that indicated deep thought. "This explains why they are so effective. They combine the best of organic intelligence with mechanical precision." "But there is something else," So Young continued. "These organic components are not from the same species as the original Void Devourers. They are from conquered worlds. The research team fell silent as the implications sank in. You mean they take prisoners and turn them into living weapons? Who asked? Worse than that. They take the best and brightest from each species they conquer and integrate them into their war machine. This hunter-killer contains neural tissue from at least 12 different species, including humans, Dr. Veltar added quietly. I found human neural patterns in the Tactical Processing Center. Taemin felt cold. How is that possible? We have never lost any crew members to capture. Not crew members, So Young said sadly. Colonists, from the outer settlements that were consumed before we learned how to fight back. The knowledge that their own people had been turned into weapons against them filled the research team with grim determination. This was no longer just about survival, it was about rescue. Can we reverse the process? Taemin asked. Maybe, So Young replied. But first we need to understand how they control the integrated organisms. The answer came from an unexpected source. While studying the hunter-killer's communication systems, Hyojin discovered something that changed everything. The control system is not just mechanical, she announced. It is psychological. They use fear, pain, and hopelessness to keep the integrated organisms obedient. Psychological warfare against their own troops? Commander Zethkari was shocked. More than that, the entire Void Devourer command structure is based on psychological control. They maintain discipline through terror, not loyalty. This discovery led to the most audacious plan in human military history. Instead of simply fighting the Void Devourers, they would liberate them. Operation Mindbreak, Taemin announced to the assembled fleet commanders. We are going to teach the Void Devourers something they have never experienced: hope. The plan was as complex as it was dangerous. Using the captured hunter-killer as a template, human engineers would build devices that could disrupt the psychological control systems used by the Void DEVO, URARS. But first, they needed to test the theory. Initiating liberation protocol, So Young said, her fingers dancing over the controls of their improvised neural interface. Inside the hunter-killer, the integrated organisms began to experience something they had not felt in centuries: freedom. From fear, the results were immediate and dramatic. Neural activity is spiking, Dr. Veltar reported. The organic components are fighting back against their mechanical restraints. The hunter-killer is trying to break free from our containment. Hyojin added as warning lights flashed throughout the cargo bay. Let it, Taemin ordered. The hunter-killer's hull began to change, its smooth lines becoming more organic as the liberated organisms reshaped their prison from the inside. Then, impossibly, it began to speak, help. The voice was a mixture of a dozen different species, all crying out together. We are here, Taemin replied. You are safe now. Not dive. Never safe. They will come. Who will come? The masters. From beyond the void, they made us into this. The liberated hunter-killer began transmitting data, not about human tactics or weaknesses, but about the true nature of the Void Devourer invasion. This is incredible, Commander Zethkari said, studying the information. The Void Devourers are not the real enemy? They are slaves, just like the integrated organisms. Then who is the real enemy? Taemin asked. The answer came in the form of a holographic display showing the edge of their galaxy. Beyond the familiar stars lay something vast and dark, a structure so large it dwarfed entire solar systems. The Masters, the liberated hunter-killer whispered. They sleep in the void between galaxies. They send us to gather resources and prepare worlds for their awakening. How long do we have? Jiwoo asked. Soon. They grow impatient. The harvest must be completed. The transmission cut off as the hunter-killer systems failed. The liberation process had been too traumatic for its hybrid nature to survive, but it had given them enough. Emergency transmission to all human ships, Taemin ordered. Priority Alpha, we have new intelligence about the enemy's true nature. Within hours, the revelation spread throughout the human fleet and beyond. The Void Devourers were not invaders, they were victims. Somewhere beyond the galaxy, an ancient evil was using them as tools to prepare for an even greater threat. "This changes everything," Captain Byung-ho transmitted from his position near the front lines. "We are not just fighting for our survival. We are fighting to free an entire species from slavery." "How do we fight an enemy we cannot see?" asked Captain Minho from his deep space patrol. "The same way we have fought every other impossible battle," Taemin replied. "We adapt, we improvise, and we never give up." The liberation technology developed from their study of the hunter-killer was distributed to every human ship and shared with their alien allies. Soon, modified transmission arrays were broadcasting freedom signals throughout Void Devourer-controlled space. The effect was gradual but undeniable. Void Devourer units began malfunctioning as their integrated organisms fought back against their programming. Some ships simply stopped attacking. Others turned on their own command structures. A few actually switched sides entirely. "This is Hybrid Unit 247, came a transmission to the Defiance. "We were a Zalani exploration vessel before capture. We wish to join your resistance." "Welcome to the fleet," Taemin replied. The war was no longer humans versus aliens. It was freedom versus slavery, hope versus despair, the living versus those who would consume all life, and for the first time since the invasion began, the Void Devourers were losing. Incoming transmission from the Galactic Council. So Young announced. Council leader Morden's image appeared on their main screen. Her forearms gestured excitedly as she spoke. "Captain Park, your discovery has revolutionized our understanding of this conflict. Species throughout the galaxy are volunteering to join the liberation effort. The Centauri Republic is contributing their entire fleet. The Vegan Confederacy is providing advanced weapons technology. Even the isolationist Tau Cetians are offering to help." "That is good news," Taemin replied. "We will need all the help we can get. There is more. Our deep space sensors have detected movement at the galactic edge. Something massive is approaching from intergalactic space." "The Masters? We believe so. Estimated arrival time, 3 months. 3 months to prepare for a battle against an enemy of unimaginable power. 3 months to unite a galaxy that had been fractured by centuries of mistrust and conflict. All human ships, this is Captain Park," Taemin broadcast to his scattered fleet. "We have a new mission. We started this war trying to survive. Then we learned to fight back. Now we are going to do something that has never been done before." "What is that?" came Captain Yunji's voice from her position in deep space. "We are going to win." As the human fleet prepared for the final battle, Taemin looked out at the stars and thought about how far they had come. They had started as 5 desperate people in a stolen cargo ship, volunteering for a suicide mission that everyone knew was hopeless. Now they were the leaders of a galactic resistance movement, fighting not just for humanity but for the freedom of all sentient life. The Masters were coming, but they would not find the helpless galaxy they expected. They would find something far more dangerous, a galaxy united by hope and led by a species that had never learned how to surrender. The final battle was about to begin, and humanity was ready. The Masters arrived exactly when the deep space sensors predicted they would, emerging from the void between galaxies like living nightmares made of dark metal and twisted energy. Each one was the size of a small planet, their surfaces covered with structures that hurt to look at directly. There were 7 of them, and they moved with the patient certainty of gods who had never known defeat. "All fleet units, this is Admiral Park," Taemin broadcast from the bridge of the rebuilt Defiance. In the 3 months since the liberation technology had spread, he had been promoted to lead the combined Galactic Defense Force. "Engage liberation. Protocol, show them what we have learned." The response came from across the galaxy as ships from 100 different species activated their freedom transmitters. The signals raced outward at light speed, reaching every Void Devourer unit still under master control. The effect was immediate and spectacular. Across dozens of star systems, Void Devourer fleets suddenly stopped their advance as they're integrated. Crews fought back against centuries of psychological conditioning. Liberation signals are working, reported Commander Jiwoo from her position aboard the tactical command ship. Void Devourer units are breaking formation throughout the galaxy. Some are joining us, added Captain So-young from her mobile research vessel. The liberated crews are sharing intelligence about master weaknesses and tactics. But the masters had not survived eons of conquest by being unprepared for rebellion. New contacts, announced Captain Dongsu from his scout ship at the edge of the solar system. The masters are deploying something I have never seen before. The holographic display showed sleek ships emerging from the massive master vessels. Unlike the hybrid organic-mechanical void devourers, these ships were pure technology, smooth, perfect, and utterly without life. Automated hunter fleets, came the voice of Zixstar, a liberated void devourer captain who had joined the defense force. The masters use them when their slaves prove unreliable. No organic components to liberate. No minds to free. Pure machine logic programmed for one purpose: extermination. How many? Taemin asked. Each master carries approximately 10,000 hunter units. 70,000 automated warships against the combined fleets of the galaxy. The odds were impossible, even by human standards. Well? For engineering communications from her engineering command ship. At least now we know what we are up against. The battle began at the edge of the Centauri system, where Captain Byung-ho's Deep Space Patrol made first contact with the advancing hunter fleet. Engaging enemy scouts, he reported calmly. They are fast, but they fight like machines. No creativity. No adaptation, just overwhelming firepower and numbers. His ship, the Audacity, had been rebuilt with liberated Void Devourer,